Hey, you guys, and welcome back to another Moments with Mo. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more about my journey. I would love to get to know you guys a little bit more, and hopefully, you get to know me a little bit more through this podcast. I just want to share some of what I've been through and hopefully encourage you guys in the process. So, if you're interested, then definitely keep on listening. All right, welcome back, you guys. Welcome back. Let's get on into it. So, like I said in my first podcast, I am 21 years old. I go to Georgia State University. I'm a master's student pursuing a degree in political science. And I guess down the line, I would like to be a lawyer, go to law school, X, Y, and Z, whatever you want to call it. Um, I would like to be a civil and human rights attorney, but not off the rip. I would like to practice big law first, just to be able to pay off some loans and, get myself established in that area in the field. I would like to work with celebrities and get my name out there and then transition into civil and human rights with a little bit of traveling on the side. I want to tell you guys a small little story just to get you guys caught up into who I am as a person. And so, mind you, I'm 21 years old and I'm in my last year of my master's program. So that should speak for itself. But last year, my first semester fall, I had to drop one of my classes because it just was not feasible. It was a homeless class. It was an honors course. And basically, we were coming to class every couple of weeks, but for the majority of the class, we were supposed to be helping out with the homeless people, partnering with an organization that fits towards our, project issue that we wanted to cover. But I knew that it wasn't feasible for me because I already had an internship, on top of the fact that it would be hard for me to get there because they weren't providing transportation and these areas weren't close by. Like, you would need to have a car. They weren't providing gas, no transportation. They weren't automatically pairing you with somewhere. You had to do all of that for yourself. So I just had to drop the class at the last minute. Like, the last day of the last day of the withdrawal period before it turns into an F on your GPA, I dropped the course, which I'm super glad I did. Which means that I think I was taking maybe 18 credit hours, or I might have been taking 18 or 21, but not at all at the same time. At one time, I was taking 18, and then one of my classes would end, and then another class would start, so it would all add up to 18. But I was scheduled for 21 hours in total for the semester. And then the next semester, no, I was taking 18 for sure, because the next semester I ended up having to take 21 hours, which is a total of 7 classes. I was not taking 7 classes all at the same time, but like I said, one class would be for one period of the semester and then it would end, and another class would be for the remainder of the semester. However, they were master's level courses, so it's not the same as a undergraduate course as far as the rigor is concerned. And I remember speaking to my advisor, my graduate advisor, and he was like, "You sure you're trying to graduate in the spring?" I said, "Yes, sir. I am trying to graduate in the spring. Yes, that was the plan. That's what I'm sticking to." He said, "I just don't think it's feasible for you to be able to schedule and take 7 courses in one semester. It's a lot. It's a lot." And you know what? Realistically, I could receive what he was saying, but I'm not like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the average student. And I'm not saying that to talk myself up, but it's like, I know who I am, and if I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to get it done. And so I basically said, okay, well, thank you, but we going to see. We going to see. And if I had let that piece of advice from someone who was supposed to be an advisor stop me or discourage me, I wouldn't have been able to graduate from Georgia State in the spring. But I continued to, stick with my plan. I signed up for 7 courses as I planned. And of course, that wasn't the original plan, but plans change, you know what I'm saying? So I had to do what I had to do in order to keep up with my track for graduation. And I took those 7 classes. Yes, I was stressed out. Yes, I was taking 7 classes. I was an RA. We were hosting events, move out, all of that. But I still had to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still had that plan. And when you are disciplined in your plan, even if it does become stressful, even if it does become something that you're just overwhelmed by, with that discipline, you just keep going anyway. And so I ended up being able to graduate actually early. So what had happened was, the traditional student goes to college for 4 years. But I walked into college with a couple of credits. So I took 3 classes from high school with dual enrollment. So that's like 9 hours. And then I took AP classes, and I believe I had credit for 2 history courses, but I think one of them counted. The other one, I'm not sure if it counted for real or not. But I did walk in with a couple of credits, but nothing too crazy. Like other people, they be having like 30 credits walking in, 60 credits, whatever. And so, yeah, I knew that I just wanted to be a regular student walking into college. I wanted to be like everybody else. I didn't want to have honors. Like in high school, everybody was so focused on honors, clubs, like all that, like all the rah-rah. But in college, it's like, don't nobody care. Nobody cares. As long as you have a good GPA, you stay active in at least 1 or 2 clubs, and you have, I think internships are more important, to be honest. But as long as you're staying active, people will give you a chance from if you network and if you put yourself out there. So yeah, I told myself that I was not going to be caught up in all the rah-rah. I just said I want to be a basic student, go to class, that's it. And it started off that way. That is exactly what I did my first semester, my freshman year. I went to class, I came back to my room, and that was it. I went out to work when I was working, and then I joined one club for a bit, but I had to stop because I had to go to work. So yeah, but I did have that plan for a while, but then the pandemic set in the second semester of my freshman year. And so when I got back to my house, like my home, I had to be realistic with myself. I said, Morgan, what do you have planned for the future? And around that time, we had to schedule classes for the following semester, which is either summer semester 2020 or fall semester 21. And so I was looking at my credit breakdown, and I said, well, Morgan, if you stay on the regular track, just as a regular student taking 15 credit hours every semester, no summer classes, you would graduate in the fall of 2022, fall 2022, and then you will only be taking 9 credit hours in the fall. So in my head, I said, that don't make no sense. That would be a waste of money for you to pay to live on campus, pay for your classes, still be here, but not be fully saturated with what it takes to be a college student. So I said, you know what? We're going to speed this up. I'm not going to graduate a semester early. I'm going to graduate a year early. So that's what I did. I took some summer classes and, added a couple classes every semester. And then I had the opportunity to also be a dual degree student. So I'll be pursuing my bachelor's and my master's at the same time. And so that is also what I did. So I was taking master's courses my last year of my undergrad degree, which was last year. And so for the average person, they're like, Morgan, bro, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. And it is crazy. It really is. And I feel like for myself, especially within the period of me being in quarantine and then just coming back in person, that was a huge transition between spring 2020 to fall 21. Those semesters in between, I was grinding really hard. I was in clubs. I was like the head for 2 departments. I also had a job, I was working, and I was taking a whole bunch of credit hours. And I will say that sometimes we get addicted to the grind, and it's not all that it sets out to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as glamorized as people try to make it seem on social media. It is work. Like, it's real work. I would be in the break room on my break making an agenda for my clubs, for my meetings. And then my meetings would be back to back. So I would have one meeting for one club, and then like the same club, I would have another meeting for the other portion that I was heading. And I would just be working, trying to submit homework. I would come home after work. I would stay up until midnight because that's when my labs were due. And I would just be grinding. And of course, like I said, sometimes we get addicted to the grind, but then that's how we get burnt out really quickly. And I will say that when I was reintroduced into society, that's how I like to call it, when I came back in person, I was really, really burnt out. Not to mention I was going through something that wasn't even that serious for real, but nevertheless, it was important to me. But those two in conjunction with each other, I was just working and I was taking master's classes. I had never had that intro into it. It's just kind of like, boom, you're in master's courses now. And so I was just really not taking my studies super seriously. Now, for me, that looks different than for other people. For me, I was getting B's in my master's courses. Other people were like, girl, you acting like you freaking failing, you not turning in work. No, I was turning it in, but I knew I wasn't meeting my fullest potential. And I knew I could work harder. I knew I could keep up with the assignments more. I knew I could try. And I wasn't putting forth real effort. So, of course, for B, my B is the equivalent to an F in somebody else's head. And so it was a lot, on top of the fact that I had an internship as well. I was an RA. And, I'm just working in between that. I'm just trying to study, keep up with everything that I have on my schedule. And then be back in society. Like, it was such a huge transition to come back from not talking to anybody but your family to speaking to whole people. And like, as an RA, especially for freshmen, our building, so there's different buildings within the overall like whole building. And so our building, we had to do a lot more because we had freshmen. And so we had to do all these things back to back. So first we had training. Training was like 2 weeks. Then after training, it was straight to move-in. After move-in, it was straight to first week of classes. After that, we had roster verifications, room checks, and then we had care convos. And then it would just repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's like, how am I living right now? You already have to do duty, which is like you have to be on call for certain days. And then you have desk shifts on top of you still being a student and a human being. And I really don't know how I did it, but I was very burnt out. I was very, very burnt out. And it was really because of my support system that I was honestly able to finish how I finished. But saying all that to say, please be careful with taking on too much, even if you know you can. Because I remember I was going to this thing called the Living Room that is in Georgia for us. And shout out to them. It's at Buckhead Church, or that's where it's housed. And basically they have shuttles from different colleges to be able to take them to Buckhead Church. And, you just have fellowship, you could worship and all that, and then you have small groups. So that was really nice. And I remember they were talking about, like, priorities, like listing our top 5 of things that we should have, because sometimes we get on the struggle bus and it's like our usual flow isn't flowing like it used to. You used to be able to push through, but now it's just like, bro, I'm not feeling it. And I knew that day when they said that message, I knew that I had just gotten on the struggle bus, because like it felt weird. Like for me, I noticed it immediately. Like what I was doing was no longer enough. And so I was looking, I'm trying to create my top 5 priorities and all that. And then we get in our small groups. And then one of our small group leaders, she was just like, do you think you have too much on your plate? She just said it to everybody. And I raised my hand and I was like, I really don't think I have too much on my plate, because I could handle everything that I had on my plate. It's just, I think I had the wrong things on my plate. Like seriously, I felt like I was prioritizing things that I shouldn't have been. I was giving too much attention to things that I shouldn't have been. And that wasn't serving me. You know what I'm saying? It was no longer fulfilling. I wasn't able to function within that capacity anymore. It was draining, if anything. And so I did have to realign my priorities and just make sure that, number one, I'm sticking to the script, because if you're going to do the work, you're going to do the work and you're going to get tired. But I would rather burn out throughout the journey towards the end than when you're smack dead in the middle. And for me, I knew that last year was important, but it wasn't. I was nowhere near finished. If anything, I was in the middle, because I knew that I was graduating with my bachelor's, but I was coming right back. Then I was going to be graduating with my master's. And honestly, this year is more important. And so now I'm really like, I'm talking to my mom about things, and she's kind of going through the same thing. She's going through her own transitions in a good way. Because let me step back and explain myself a little bit. So when it comes down to us, we do try to elevate, not often, but when it matters. So when we're no longer feeling fulfilled within the position that we're in, we try to do things, instead of complaining about it, we try to do things to like change our circumstance. And so I personally wanted to do better for myself. Like, I know exactly where I want to be. My mom knows exactly where she wants to be. So it's like, put in the work. Put in the work. Like, stop complaining. Put in the work. And so for me, I know that my top goal was law school and to become a lawyer. And so last year I was able to chill and kind of play around. But this year it's like, if I don't get on it, I need to study. And I mean seriously study. Like, get a full study schedule for my for my LSAT prep. And that is difficult. It's difficult to maintain some discipline when it comes down to that, especially when you're in the summer. Like, you just graduated, you feel like you're at the finish line, but you're nowhere near it. And you can get caught up in that complacent place of you feeling like this is enough for now. And it's like, no, baby, you still have things to accomplish. And so that is one thing that I'm thinking about. I'm also thinking about my GPA. My GPA is high. I don't want to say it because I don't want anybody to be able to compare it to, it's not the same thing. And people's circumstances are different, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to, yeah. But I do want my GPA to be a bit higher for me to be in the 75th percentile for the law school that I'm looking at. And so I do need to take another class because I'm a little bit short, just by a little bit. And so if I can take one class and just put myself over the top, like one little chill class and get me an A+, that'll put me over the top for where I need to be. But I need to do that quickly, on top of the fact that I'm already studying, and then I'll be a student. Then it's just like, I want to have an internship. Everything is about building your resume, networking. And so it's just like, bro, I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have to plan for next year. And I was tired just making the list. You know what I'm saying? I was burnt out last year, and then I'm getting to this point, and it's like, I can't talk myself into a depression, because that you need to prepare yourself. It is not unhealthy or unreasonable to make a plan, but you don't want to be lazy. And that is one thing that my mom and I were speaking about, trying to motivate and encourage each other. Don't be lazy. This is the stuff that you asked for. You knew that you were placed in a different position than everybody else. So the way that it looks for your journey is going to be different than somebody else. And so you're going to have to put in the work for the results that you want. Period. If you want to stop where you're at, that's cool. And that's not to minimize the accomplishment that I did accomplish. But it's like, that's not where I wanted to end up. That is nowhere near where I wanted to end up. And so you know that the lifestyle that you want requires more. So get to work. Get to work. And so even with building my resume, I'm just like, all right, I need an internship. And, okay, you guys, I don't want to speak too much about this next thing, but I'm going to give y'all a little taste. So I wanted to do some research. And to the people who know me, and we've had this conversation, thank you guys for, fostering that discussion, that safe space to open a conversation about that. But we all know that Roe versus Wade is in the process of being overturned, and we're just trying to decipher what that looks like within society, how that is going to be implemented, this, that, and the third. And so I had already been wanting to do research with that somehow. As you guys know, I just said I'm a political science student. I did want to do research within my master's program, and I wanted to center it around women's reproductive rights. And let me say this as well. I do have an emphasis on minorities within my subject matter. So, of course, I'm pre-law, but in the prerequisites that I had to take, no, not the prerequisites, the electives that I had to take, I tried to focus it around women's studies, so women's gender sexuality studies, sociology, and African American studies / human rights and civil rights. And so all those things in conjunction, it's like, ooh, that's a powerhouse, and it is. So when I took this one class about women in politics, it really did push me to want to do more research about women's reproductive rights, especially when it comes from a Black woman's standpoint or women minorities. And so that is all that I'm going to say about that. But I do want to do research. The topic, if you know it, is crazy. I don't know if it's even able to be accomplished, and it's going to be a lot of work if I am able to accomplish it. But I was getting stressed out about that, just trying to find a way to be able to get some type of research opportunity. And I see stuff popping up now, and I'm like, oh, so it's possible. It's possible at least for me to do some type of research, or it's possible for me to get an internship. I'm seeing these opportunities pop up now, and I'm like, Morgan, do the work now. Put in the application, submit your name, get the help, talk, communicate, ask people for help. And so that's what I've been doing. And of course, like I said, it is stressful to know that you have work to do for the future. But for me, one thing that I always said to myself and one thing that I've always wanted is that push. When I'm always bored or when I'm like able to make it through the position that I'm in, so basically things are too easy for me. And so I'm just skating by, so I'm not feeling fulfilled because there's no real challenge. But I know that if I have a real challenge, although I am stressed out, this is what I asked for. And that is always what I wanted. I wanted a challenge. I wanted a lot on my plate, but I wanted to feel like it was meaningful and purposeful, not just stress for no reason. You know what I'm saying? So I do have to set up good and healthy patterns. And that is one thing, I guess that'll be the moment of Mo, or moment with Mo for today. Set up good habits. When you set up good habits, it's harder for you to fall into bad habits because that is all you know. That's all you've been doing so far. When you set up bad habits, it's hard to realign yourself and transition that into a good habit. So, for example, I think I spoke about this in a previous podcast, but there was this one time during the pandemic when I truly felt like I was walking in my fullest potential. Everything that was basically on my list, you know, like how you have your New Year's resolution, everything that was basically on that New Year's resolution list, even though that's not what it was, that I accomplished it and I felt phenomenal. I started to think more clearly. I started to sleep better. I started to feel better. Low stress levels, feeling very motivated, feeling like I was just walking in my purpose. And it just felt so meaningful. And if you've never experienced that, man, jump on it because it's work. It is work. But when you start setting those patterns, your body starts to do it naturally anyway. Like, it's like, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm supposed to be working out anyway. Your body's going to tell you that, so it feels foreign when you don't. So it'll be harder for you to set that pattern after you've been not working out for 3 weeks and it's like, okay, let's jump on it. That's not an excuse to not start. You should definitely still start. But it is harder to get into that habit once you already have your own patterns already established. And so, yeah, the only other thing about myself that I am trying to do is just finding more ways to incorporate joy within my everyday life. So last year, I really learned the definition of work hard, play hard. Before, I was just a work hard, and I did not play hard often at all. But when I had friends who were actually learning how to balance both a social life and an academic life and just professional life, it showed me that it is fun. It is so much fun. Like, the journey doesn't have to be always stressful. It can be fun bits included in that as well. And so, yeah, like, I was going out. I was having a good time. I was, just hanging out with friends and living it up, even if we were just chilling in somebody's room and talking. The fact that I was able to do that with the community and not just solely focused on the work, not only was it motivating for me to actually continue to balance it, but it just felt good that I wasn't the only person doing it, and it was achievable. Your goals are never unachievable, honestly. And if anybody tells you that, that just means that they're too close-minded to see the vision that you have. But be realistic within you. And so even with going back to the story about my advisor, I know myself, and I knew that I could accomplish the goal of taking 21 credit hours because I know me. Other people, for what the advice that he gave, that is exactly for them. Because some people, it's just good and well, you're going to get in them classes, you're not going to go to class, you're not going to do the work. And me, I am a professional procrastinator. I will do the assignment an hour, 2 hours before it's due, and I had to get better. Then I started to do it 3 hours before it was due. And that was more feasible for me, but it was still not good. So this year, I'm really going to try to have a pattern, have a schedule, get your stuff done at the beginning of the week so that you can play hard. Because I played a lot throughout the week. But the days where I had assignments, I would be stressed out at night trying to get the assignment done. And it's just bro, you could have done this on Monday and you didn't have to be stressed out about it. So just get it done. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, y'all. So I think the last point that I was making was finding more ways to incorporate joy. And that is really feeding my inner child. So the things that I've wanted to accomplish that I can share with you guys, of course, I wanted to start this podcast. A lot of people already knew that, and I'm actually doing it. And every time I walk to the library and set up for the podcast, I get so giddy and so excited. And it's I just cheese and just, I'm screaming like a little kid because it's like I really wanted to do this and I'm doing it. And it just feels so good. And then other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to skate, and I am getting better at skating. Making like those small milestones, it just makes my heart so happy. And then the other thing that I wanted to do, don't laugh, but I wanted to learn how to double dutch. I didn't really double dutch as a kid. We only like jumped with the single rope or just like jumping by yourself. But I never learned how to double dutch. And people might be like, "Oh, you were deprived of childhood," and I wasn't. But we just didn't do that in our school. And my mom and my aunt, they grew up double dutching. And so on the day after Christmas last year, I was asking them, I said, "Please, can you please teach me how to double dutch?" And they were trying. But one thing about me, you can tell me and it'll click in my head, but in practice, I'm not going to get it until I get it. So I know exactly what you're telling me, and it processed, but I just can't do it until I get it. But then when I get it, I got it. So yeah, I haven't got it quite yet. I haven't got it, but I'm working on it, or I'm trying to at least. I bought the ropes. I just need to start practicing. And so I guess that is another thing. Make sure that you are aligning yourself and taking the steps needed to actually accomplish your goal. You can't just stop on step 1 or 2 just because it didn't work out the way you wanted to work out. And I can't say that with skating. It takes practice, it takes discipline, and it just takes doing it. And then it'll get more fun, where like how you see it on Instagram when they be doing all the videos and stuff. And so once I started to practice more, especially this summer, I was like, oh my gosh, I started to learn how to backward skate, and I'm learning how to glide, I'm learning how to groove, and I learned how to crisscross. It feels so good. Like, it feels so good. Of course, I'm not perfect by any means, and I have a long way to go, but those small wins, it's like, ooh, I'm feeling myself. Like, for real though. It just feels so good to have those small wins. And so the fact that I'm actually able to celebrate those small wins instead of just like, okay, I did it, let's keep going. It's like, it's okay to just stop and smile and be happy for a minute. And so that is also one thing that I'm trying to learn how to do. And I guess like to just close out this episode, I will say make sure that you are enjoying the small wins, because it just makes the journey that much more enjoyable. Sometimes when we're only focused on, okay, I gotta grind. Or like in your journey, you like, okay, I accomplished this one thing, I gotta keep going. And it's like, bro, the thing that you've been praying for, the thing that you've been working towards, you actually accomplished it, and you're not even acknowledging the accomplishment that you made because you're so focused trying to get to the next part. And it's like, you gotta just chill sometimes, and you gotta be like, okay, you know what? I actually accomplished it, so pat on the back for me. Acknowledge God. It's like, God, you helped me get here. You gave me the plan. You gave me the drive. I put in the work. I got it. So let me be happy, because sometimes it may make it seem like it's ungrateful or it's never good enough. No matter what you accomplish, you always focus on the next thing. So it seems like the place where you're at now is not good enough. And even if you're not satisfied where you are, you have to make peace with where you are at the stage that you're in it. And so, yeah, that is this episode of Moments with Mo. Comment down below if you can relate to what I was saying. Share your journey if you're willing and open enough to do that. And just continue the conversation down below. But please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and definitely share this with your friends. But thank you guys for supporting me, and I'll see you guys in the next Moments with Mo. Bye.